Okay.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our presentation. And our topic is on using Fowler's faith development theory to analyze undergraduate students' faith development at Ohio University. And this is our digital story, and it's brought to you by myself, Augustine Gyekye, and
Doreen Tutera.
And Chante Martin.
sit tight and enjoy. So, with our table of content, we'll be looking at reasons for the study, the theoretical framework that is delving deep into Fowler's faith development theory, the stages of the theory, some methods and limitations, the findings after our interviews, recommendations, and videos about how we map our participants' development with the theory. Now, why is this necessary? Why is this study necessary? As we are exploring ways in which undergraduate students at Ohio University develop within the Fowler's faith development theory, we understand that faith development plays a major role in student socialization process, and the Fowler's faith development theory is also relevant for undergraduate experience. Next.
So the theoretical framework using Fowler's faith development, James Fowler was a Methodist minister. He was the first to address faith and began the developmental approach. Fowler believed that faith was universal and more personal than religion. He also believed that each person's faith expression is unique. He developed 6 stages of faith development that were generalizable and testable among cultures. So here we have the 6 stages of Fowler's faith development theory. The pre-stage and stage 1 kind of coincide. It occurs during the early childhood, which deals with a child's first images of God, which is shared generally by the parents or family. The children are exposed to different stories and images to help shape their perception of God, while stage 2 is the mythic literal faith, which involves childhood and limited to concrete thinking. This occurs during elementary school years and is when a child remembers those stories being told by those family members, and then they begin to see perspectives other than their families. Then moving on to stage 3, the synthetic conventional faith deals with commitment to church and leaders. This occurs when individuals begin to think critically and abstractly about life, school, religion, things that are occurring in the media, and etc. The people, like during this stage, individuals aren't thinking critically. They aren't thinking about faith as critically. Stage 4 deals with the individuative reflective faith, which is a focus upon personal faith. This stage is initiated when someone is becoming more self-authored. They tend to hold their beliefs dear to them and their commitments. This usually occurs in the young adulthood, ranging from the 20s up until age 40. This stage can happen when dealing with change relationships or challenges within one's life. Stage 5 is the conjunctive faith, which is awareness of perspective. This happens in midlife or beyond and occurs when one has an increased awareness about life's complexities and the influence of one's behaviors and attitudes. And the final stage, which is stage 6, universalizing faith, transforming process. This is the final stage where a person sees the world differently than others. They tend to hold God and people to a higher value, and they believe in equality for all people. Fowler has stated that this stage is rare for individuals. Prominent figures such as Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King Jr. Have reached that stage. Moving on to methods.
Doreen, you're muted.
Sorry. We recruited participants by emailing 4 faith-based student organizations on campus. We had no response from them. And then we proceeded to recruit students from our offices, that is from our GA offices. And although it was quite difficult to recruit these students because of the sensitive nature of the topic, we finally got 11 students for the study. Criteria of selection was based on participants' membership to OU's community, and participants were undergrad students who were at least 18 years of age and had faith. We sent out written consent forms by email with details of the research project. And because of safety protocols due to the pandemic, majority of the participants had their interviews using Microsoft Teams, and there was only one participant who wanted to be interviewed in person. And to analyze the data, we open coded our interview transcript using Microsoft Word. We did this by using the comment button in Word and highlighting themes from each line or paragraph. We then wrote down all the open codes in a separate Word document and grouped them, compared them across the interview transcript and grouped them according to similar themes. And these themes became our findings. And for our limitations, the pandemic and its related consequence of social distancing made it impossible to have face-to-face interviews with all the participants. This prevented us from directly observing the participants' facial expressions and bodily movements. We also faced with connectivity issues during some of our interviews, and it was difficult making majority of the participants open up about their faith because discussing faith was seen as a personal issue. And some participants also gave scanty responses, and we could not probe into these questions because we didn't want to make the participants feel uncomfortable.
Now, for our findings, based on the interviews we had, there were some common or emerging themes that popped up, and these are listed in this slide. We have participants' development with faith, some challenges with faith development, faith-based communications that participants had, impact of faith on life philosophy, and faith versus religion, because most of the participants, almost all of them, could not talk about faith without referring to religion. Now, let's move on to how we individually mapped our participants' development with the theory. So we'll play the video so that you can have
a participant, that is Mary within Fowler's theory of faith development. So I should mention that Mary does not go through all the stages of Fowler's faith development theory. At the first two stages, that is the primal and intuitive projective faith, we get to know how Mary's family had an effect on her faith. Mary mentioned that although her grandmother introduced her to religion at a young age, she did not grow up in a religious home. Her father never had discussions about faith with her, and her older brother was very critical about faith and religion. Her mother, on the other hand, gave her the freedom to choose her faith because her mom was forced to attend church when she was younger. She also mentioned that she found faith through her friends who attended church. And the irony of this situation was that although she didn't grow up in a faith home, this situation was kind of like, it kind of served as a foundation for her faith development, as Mary was curious about her faith and yearned for an environment where she could understand faith. So the second stage was where Mary began to understand her faith literally. Mary explained that she enrolled in a Catholic high school, which solidified her faith. Although she wasn't Catholic, she was Christian, but she wasn't Catholic. And it also helped her, enrolling in the school, helped her understand her faith and the teachings of her faith literally. The third stage here, Mary kind of used faith and religion interchangeably. And this was when Mary was conforming to a set of ideologies, and she did not question her faith because of fear of rejection. So it was kind of like go with the flow. And this stage occurred from high school through Mary's sophomore year at OU. Here, Mary said that she used to be religious and she accepted societal and religious norms without questioning them. The fourth stage started when Mary began to be critical of her faith, and she began to acknowledge other faiths. She did not reject her faith, but she did start questioning or rejecting her religion. And I should also mention that the COVID-19 pandemic was a precursor to this stage as Mary began to question her faith. She examined her personal beliefs, and that served as a platform for establishing her own faith. And as part of her personal beliefs, Mary stated that bad things do not only happen to bad people, but to everyone. And she saw faith as a backbone to a successful and happy life. It is difficult to assess if Mary gets to the stage 5, because although she suggested that OU was home to a diverse population and she interacted with different people, she did not directly state if she accepted other people's viewpoints. Thank you.
Now we move on to the second video from Chante.
Hi, my name is Chante, and I will be giving an overview of my interviews. After I analyzed the results from my interviews, my interviewees had experienced many different stages of Fowler's faith development. I had interviewed a total of 3 undergraduate students who are all women. My first interview was from a freshman student who had shared that she grew up listening to stories from family members and her parents just about faith and religion, and which I perceived to be the pre-stage of Fowler's faith development theory. And as she grew older, she began to transition to stage 1, where she learned about God because of her family's religious backgrounds. She expressed that her parents are very, very religious, and her grandparents are pastors. So she grew up in the church. She has stated in her interview that she never understood the conversations about faith, religion, and just the belief in God. Whenever she would hear her family talking about those things, she never really understood it. And I perceive that to be stage 2 of Fowler's faith development theory. She has stated that she has faith, but she isn't religious and doesn't believe in there being just one God. I think she displayed stage 3 by having the ability to think critically and form her own beliefs and practices that work for her. She had expressed to me that, she has had conversations about faith and religion with her friends and her mother during her high school career. And her mom really helped her to really grasp an understanding of faith and what faith is and what religion is. And from the interview, I don't think she viewed faith critically as some people would. I think she is still learning about herself, and given that she is a freshman, I don't think she has grasped the full meaning of adulthood due to her still relying on her parents to make decisions and talking those things out with them, because she expressed, like I said, she talks to her mom about a lot of things and they make those decisions together. So, and she also had mentioned that how being away from home and being at Ohio University has increased her thought process, especially, when she's alone. She has started to meditate and use rocks and crystals for help. And that's part of her faith regime. I believe she is in stage 4, where she's becoming self-authored. She's really starting to rely on her own faith and her own perspective, and not so much her parents, which I think is very interesting. Overall, I do believe that the women I interviewed have gone through stages 1 through 4 of Fowler's faith development theory. I think they have transitioned from stage 3, the synthetic conventional faith, which occurs during adolescence, and are in the midst of beginning stage 4, the individuative, reflective faith, where they begin to experience challenges within their environment, especially being away at college and learning to rely on themselves. I think in college, you have a lot of, challenges just being away from home, getting adjusted to the new environment, making friends. So I think they're in the midst of, learning how to fully grasp that and navigate the Ohio University campus and really learn how to make decisions on their own.
Hi everyone, let me take you through a brief description of how my participants' faith development maps with Fowler's theory. But let me add that all my participants did not go through all the 6 stages of the theory, but the first 2 were similar for all of them. Now, with the first stage, which is normally between 0 to 2 years, my participants stated that they depended on their family at this stage and that they were introduced to their faith by their parents, but just 3 of them. One of them said that his was different and it was introduced to his faith by the community church. Moving on, the intuitive projective faith, which is mostly between 2 to 7 years. At this stage, all my participants said they were introduced to language and how communication is about. And also the idea of God was picked up from parents and also from societal influence. Now, moving on, let's look at the next stage, which is normally between 8 to 12 years. Now, all my participants said that they accepted faith stories told by the society. 3 of them said it came from parents, and 1 person said that it came from Sunday school. Now, for the synthetic or conventional faith stage, here, all my participants got exposed to the world and got to know about other different faiths. 2 said that friends introduced them to these different faiths. 2 also said that it was true going to school, especially in high school and college. Moving on to the next stage, 3 of my participants are currently at this stage where they are critically examining what they believe in due to the knowledge of other systems around them. Now they've been asking questions of which one is right. Is either their faith or the others? And this comes as a result of they questioning their faith through loss of family members, no answers to their questions, and sometimes failure in projects that they undertake. Now, with the last 2 stages of Fowler's theory, none of my participants is in these stages. Stage 5 talks about multiple interpretation of life and exploring different ideologies other than yours. And stage 6 talks about you dedicating your life to serving others as a individual. So that sums up how we mapped our participants' faith development with the model. And Chante will take us through some recommendations.
So for the recommendations, we decided to state that by developing faith-based programs that do not place emphasis on religion, many of our interviewees had expressed that though they have faith, they are just not religions, and that there is nothing at Ohio University that offers them any type of support. So by offering programs that are faith-based and don't place not place emphasis on religion, students will be able to explore their identities and in regards to religion and really just own their faith. By offering more outreach for students in faith development is also critical, as well as students who are religious. Many of our interviewees even stated that Ohio University, they don't know of any support groups for like churches or religious groups that they can get support for instances such as Bible study or, you know, going to church on Sunday since they're away from home. By offering marketing materials that, like, whether it's Instagrams, TikTok, flyers posted around campus in dormitories, or even just a generalized email, these programs can really target to reach students in order to help them get more acclimated with their religion or their faith development. And that is all that we have. Thank you.